Hello, everybody. I am talking with Sam Bennett today, who has written this really interesting book called The 15-Minute Method. And I think that it's really interesting. It's called The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. And people think 15 minutes? Really? And I think that's what sort of gets people drawn to this because they can't imagine that it's true.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think?
Well, in some ways, the question sort of always takes me a little off guard because can you really change your life in 15 minutes a day? I'm like, well, you already are. You already live your life in 15-minute increments. Your life is already unfolding in this way. So why not claim 15 minutes of it for yourself?
Right.
So this is the whole big thing. If you're ready, I'll tell you how you can change your life in 15 minutes a day. Drum roll, please. Grab a pen.
Right.
Spend 15 minutes a day, every single day, doing something that matters to you.
See, I think that's the caveat right there. Yeah, something that you love and something that matters to you. And so many times people won't do that because they could think it's selfish.
Right. And let me just drop this little water balloon on it. What's actually selfish is all y'all's running around exhausted and stressed out and with no sense of humor, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that. That is selfish. That is an imposition upon us. On the other hand, if you take 15 minutes a day to do something that lights you up, you know, dancing, playing ukulele, sitting in the garden, communing with the divine, whatever it is that you like to do, well, now you're calmer, you're less reactive, you can listen better, you have better ideas. There's a light in your eyes. We love this version of you. Please show up like this.
The world wants us to do this. The universe wants us to do this.
It is true generosity. It is true generosity.
I agree with that. It seems that there is a correlation between procrastination and overwhelm. To me, yeah.
Yeah. Procrastination is one of those big umbrella terms that's like gets used more and more. Overwhelm also is turning into a big umbrella term that sort of means a lot of things. I think we do ourselves a favor when we get a little bit more precise about what exactly it is we're saying. Because overwhelm, we like to pretend that that's something that the world does to us, but it's not. It's something we do to ourselves. Right. And we know this because when we see people who have jobs in which they are chronically overwhelmed, they're fine. People who work in the emergency room, first responders. I was interviewed on the news not too long ago, and the broadcaster said, "Oh, she said, like us, when we're covering like a breaking story or something really tragic and terrible has happened." I'm like, right. The circumstances are overwhelming, but you yourself are not overwhelmed. You're a broadcaster doing her job, right? So it's clearly not the outside stuff that's overwhelming us. It's the inside stuff. And here's something I just thought of today for the first time. I think some of it has to do with over-consuming. Too much input, too much media, too many podcasts, too much noise, too many voices, too many things, too many possibilities, the terror of choice, the tyranny of choice. And we just we don't even know where to begin, right? So let's take 15 minutes a day to not be a consumer, but to be a creator.
Yes.
To spend the time making something and calming yourself. And even if you don't know what to do, make a list of possible 15 minutes activities and pick one every day and try it. See how you feel.
Yeah.
Or spend 15 minutes staring at a blank piece of paper. Because 15 minutes of enforced boredom never hurt a person. Mm-hmm. And when was the last time you spent 15 minutes staring at a blank page without reaching for your phone?
Oh, yes. Well, best to get rid of the phone during those 15 minutes, which may go into 20 minutes, which may stretch to 30 to 40 minutes.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes you sit down for 15 minutes and get up 4 hours later. That absolutely happens. Sometimes you're like, and 14, 59 seconds and I'm done. Like, And if your 15 minutes is 5, it's fine. I think there's something about, because I get these questions of like, well, is it okay if I do half an hour on one day and then skip it the next day? And
Oh,
like, this isn't school. I'm not your mom. I don't care.
yeah, exactly.
Do what works for you. That's the whole point, is do what works for you. And I noticed that there is something a little magical about touching something every day, touching your project every day, touching your desire every day, touching your whatever it is you're trying to bring into existence every day. It sort of lets the angels know you're serious, you know.
Yes. I think another thing that goes hand in hand with procrastination and overwhelm is making a bunch of excuses as to why you can't do something.
And all right, watch this. I'm about to make everybody who's listening to this raise their hand. How many times have you promised yourself, like, okay, I've got all day Saturday. The house is gonna be clear. I'm gonna spend all day Saturday doing XYZ.
Yeah.
And Saturday comes and you don't go anywhere near it.
Would that be the time? Then you just put aside 15 minutes instead of thinking you have to do it the whole day.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think we allow ourselves to sort of get overcome by the magnitude of some of the things we want to do, when in fact almost everything can be broken down into 15-minute elements.
Yes.
One example I've been using a lot is, you know, let's say you want to clear out the garage. I'm like, Sam, I can't clear out the garage in 15 minutes. That's too big of a job. Okay, I get it. And let's just start. Let's take a mug of something out to the garage and just contemplate it for 15 minutes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? Yeah, just be there. Just be there with the garage for 15 minutes. Don't do anything. Just soak it in.
Be with the garage. That's
Be with the garage. And it may be, you know, that at minute 12, you go, wait a minute. Those 8 boxes are my brother's, right? And then you spend 2 minutes going, Jeffrey, get your stuff out of my garage, right? Well, now you've cleared out a good portion of the garage. You never do anything. And maybe the next day you go in again, nice mug of something. You go, oh, here's a Rubbermaid tub. We look inside. Ah, this is Christmas things, holiday things. Great. Label it, holiday stuff. And then we can put it to the back because we only need that stuff once a year.
Yeah.
Next day, we'd maybe take that broken bike and put a sign on it that says free broken bike. Take it out to the
a lot of
corner.
stuff can go out there. Yeah.
See if anybody wants it. Like a little bit at a time, you can clear that garage.
Yeah, I have a friend who does that, and she's very successful at it. Exactly what you said. Well, first of all, it would be one garage, one garbage bag at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to clear out your closet? Just do it. These 10 hangers, these 10 hangers, these 10 hangers, these 10 hangers. Quit pretending like you've got to do everything all at once. I mean, I'm a big fan of Marie Kondo, but the minute she said, take everything out and put it on the bed, I was like, see, now you've lost me. That's too big. That's too much all at once. Like, just do a little bit, little bit, little bit.
Well, if everything's on the bed and you just all of a sudden something distracts you, then you have nowhere to sleep that night.
And nothing, and your clothes are all mushed up. Like,
move it aside and take a dive.
Right? I don't think this is a good system.
How did you come up with the 15-minute method?
You know,
what was the inspiration?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been talking about it forever. My first book is called Get It Done, From Procrastination to Creative Genius in 15 Minutes a Day. So I've been beating this drum for a long time. And I certainly didn't invent it. I mean, all kinds of people have talked about 15 minutes or different. There's Pomodoro, Pomodoro technique, which is, I think, 20 minutes. I don't know, 40 minutes on, and I don't know. There's all kinds of time chunking concepts out there, and I really encourage you to find the one that works for you. I love 15 minutes just because it feels so accessible. I mean, I don't care how busy you are, you've got 15 minutes.
Yes.
Right. And it is shocking how much a person can get done in 15 focused minutes. And then it is even more shocking, the cumulative effect of doing something every day for 15 minutes for a week or a month or a year or 40 years or 60 years, right?
Yeah.
And then sort of intellectually, it kind of makes sense. We're like, oh yes, if I practice my ukulele every day for 15 minutes in not very long of a time, I would probably be a better ukulele player.
No doubt.
Right? If I sat down and wrote for 15 minutes a day, Well, in 15 minutes, you can make about 250 words. So what do we need then? 250 days, and that's a book.
Right. A lot of
And
times, so-called time is
so-called time.
wasted, with all of a sudden, getting distracted, going down this or that rabbit hole. You're not focusing on that one task for 15 minutes at all. And well, if there is such a thing as wasting time, well, that is a good example of wasting time.
Well, it's certainly not the highest and best use of time, right? It's making yourself crazy is what I call that, all that racing around inside of your mind. And, oh, I have to do all this research and I've got to get ready. And I don't know if I'm ready and I don't know if it's good enough. And if it can't be perfect, I don't even want to try. And what about this and what about that? And maybe I'll just do some more research. And this is
Oh,
this is the
overthinking,
stress elevator to hell. Overthinking,
overthinking. Yes.
overthinking, exactly. I'll tell you, I run a thing. I have it for sale on my website. It's the Daily Practicum. And every weekday at noon Eastern, we get on Zoom, wave at each other. I start the timer. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. And an entire Zoom gallery of like faces with this post-orgasmic glow look up at me. Oh my gosh, Sam, I did it. I did it. I made that phone call. I've been putting off that phone call for 6 weeks and I just made the phone call. I just wrote a note to my friend who just lost her husband and I didn't know what to say and I've been putting it off, but I finally just did it. I just wrote to her. I took this giant pile of paper and now it's this giant pile of paper. They're constantly amazed by how much they can get done and how great it feels to have done it.
Yes. And then there's the synergy with all those people doing it together.
Yeah, it's a really nice energy. And particularly for the neurospices among us, the ADD, ADHD, that it's called parallel play or body doubling. It's really effective.
Interesting, very interesting. Yes. Well, it would be like a 15-minute mastermind in a way.
A little bit. Yeah, you get that group spirit. It's also then on your calendar every day. I mean, so that's always a good little reminder. I mean, I have some people show up every day. Some people show up occasionally. Some people never show up, but the fact that it's on their calendar every day to do it makes them do it. And
Yes.
the fact that they paid for it, they've invested in it.
There you go.
That
Yes.
makes a difference too.
And then people get hung up with good ideas versus ideas.
There's no such thing as a good idea.
Yes.
Nobody's ever had a good idea. We just have ideas. Some of my favorite projects started out as the stupidest thing possible. This whole business, my whole writing career, my whole business started out with me teaching a class called Get It Done in a church basement in Van Nuys, California to maybe 11 people.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, Get It Done, what a stupid name. Like, I'll have to think of something better than that. And now it's like my whole brand.
Yes.
And it led me down this incredible path. But I didn't think it was a good idea when I started at all.
Right. Well, what did you think it was?
I thought it was a way to make a couple $100 that I really, really needed.
Exactly.
Doing something that seemed kind of fun,
Yeah. And for everybody to get together is getting it done.
Yeah.
So I loved looking at your TikTok videos. I'm on TikTok myself, and it turns out that that's a highly underrated site. That is an amazing site.
I love TikTok.
I do too.
I love TikTok for a number of reasons. I love TikTok partly because there's some other social media that I have to say I don't really get. Like, I don't really get Instagram. I'm not sure what's supposed to be happening there. I know so many people who love it. I know so many other business owners who are like, oh, I get all my business from Instagram. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I can't see it either.
I don't get it. But TikTok, well, partly too, it's the perfecty schmerfecty of it all. Like, Instagram is very styled and I am not a very styled person. So I love it. And TikTok, everybody's sort of showing up like, hi.
I love that. I love it.
And
it's become a real political site for Kamala. And there's no doubt about it that it's TikTok that'll single-handedly take her over the top.
Might just do it. Landslide.
With all our cats and dogs. Yeah.
That's right. Childless cat ladies. Woohoo.
Yes. So I love your TikToks, and you say knowing without knowing to access your higher wisdom, which kind of takes you out of that overthinking mode.
Absolutely. And this is the other great thing about the 15 minutes is when you just dive in. I mean, one of the things I say in the book is skip the first step. Whatever you think the first step is, just skip it. Just dive right in. You know, that whole like, well, I want to write a screenplay. I should probably, you know, read a book or take a class on writing a screenplay. No, don't do that. Just grab a bunch of index cards and start. You'll be fine. You know, or if you're not, then you'll figure that out and you'll learn more then.
Yes,
But
yes. Do the research as you go along. In other words, there might be a thing that you need to know that you don't know, and that would be the time to do some research.
and that will become apparent, you
Yeah,
know. But I gotta say, most of what, in my experience, most of what you need to know, you learn by doing.
That is so true. Except, you know, I was a nurse for 40 years and I did have to go to school for that.
There are some things that absolutely require certification. I'm a big fan of that. That's absolutely true. But you know, most of my biggest successes as a business owner and as an entrepreneur came from the fact that I didn't know
Sure.
it was supposed to be hard, or I didn't know I was doing something different than other people. I just did it sort of in the way that made sense to me. And then everybody's all like, wow, mind blown. How'd you think to do that? And I'm like, I don't know, just made sense to me.
Right. Right.
Uh, and it's made my business really fun because
Yeah.
I'm always doing it in the way that I want to do it. I'm not trying to follow somebody else's stupid rules. I'm doing it my way.
Right. That's the best way. Everybody has a different, well, often there's ways that coalesce, but mainly you have to sit alone. There's a poem in your book about being, I think it's Reiki, about being alone and taking those moments to really take advantage of those quiet, alone moments, because we're never really alone.
Right.
Especially if you have your cats and I have my dogs. Otherwise, we would be considered people who live alone. I lost my husband in COVID. I lost my brother in COVID. I know I read about your COVID experience, which probably helped define what you do.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
That's hard. Um,
It was so early though, we didn't even know it was what it was, but it was that, it was what it was. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I ended up with for the last 2.5 years, I've had long haul COVID, which means I got COVID and then I never got better. So the primary, so first of all, shout out to all my brothers and sisters with chronic conditions out there, particularly invisible chronic conditions. And I mean, they've only just come up with a diagnosis for it last year. Weren't even really sure
It's
what it was.
Pretty common, I think.
It depends on, they're not sure how common it is, honestly. It may be, the number I see most often is 10% of people who get COVID get long COVID. And that's anywhere from 3 months to much to, you know, years of persistent issues. The number one symptom for me and for most people is fatigue. And that was a real game changer for me to be, I mean, here I am, the get it done girl, right? The like, let's get up, let's go do it. I could sheer force of will my way through anything. And all of a sudden I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, not only could I not get out of bed, but like rolling over in bed seemed like a lot. And there's a lot of that book that was written in 15-minute increments.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A lot, and written from bed and written without the confidence that I've usually had when I'm writing. Usually, especially when I'm writing a book, I sort of have it in my head of what it is and where it's going and how I want it to feel. Long haul has affected my cognition in such a way that it's very difficult for me to do that kind of larger scale thinking. Yeah. You know, somebody says like, let's make a 12-month plan. I'm like, no. I'm sorry, that's not gonna be possible for me. I understand what you're saying, but no. And I really had to learn to trust myself in a new way, trust my writing in a new way, and trust my editors in a new way. I had to rely on my editors way more than I ever have. there was one point in the editing of this book where I was like, this book has a terrible problem. I think it's a structural problem. Like, I think things aren't in the right order, but I don't know how to fix it.
Yes.
And I just handed it back to them. I'm like, I think this is the problem, but I don't know how to fix it. And I need you to be editors and just do it. And they did. And then
Yeah.
when they got back to me, I was like, this is much better. Thank you. Now I really like this book.
Well, you saw that there was a challenge. I don't want to say problem, but there is a challenge that any challenge can be overcome, and you ask for help. That's
Ask for
what she
help.
had to do, and that's so
I
important.
hear this. Oh, I hear this a lot. This, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I don't know what I don't. I think, and the life coach will say, well, if you did know, what would you know? Right? That's their question, which is a great question. But what I always hear is with I don't know is one of two things. Either I don't trust my own inner knowing, and or I am unwilling to ask someone smarter than me.
Yeah.
It's like, if you find yourself saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know all the time, pick one of those.
Or
Just say,
find yourself a mentor if you don't have one.
that's right.
A lot of people just don't have one, and that is the only way to really succeed, in my opinion, at anything.
I have paid, I can't even count. I mean, well over 100,000 and more than that to programs and coaches and workshops and conferences and all of it. And I don't know how anybody doesn't do that.
Right.
I need to be in a room with people who are up to the same things I am. I need to be in a room with people who are asking the right questions. I need to see it modeled. We're tribal animals. Modeling is the very best way for us to learn. When we see someone else do it, we go, oh, that's how you do that? Oh, okay. Now I can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And the wisdom of the teachers. I mean, and even when sometimes they're super shitty, and sometimes they are. I have definitely paid money and then been like, oh, this was a mistake. This person is not who I thought they were, or this course
Yeah.
is not what I thought it was. And I still learn, and maybe I've learned even more from those people.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the journey of the entrepreneur anyway, is to spend money and wish you had in certain areas. It's like the bright shiny object syndrome, but because we need to make a living, and sometimes as my mentor says, you can't chase money, you have to let money chase you.
Mm.
That comes directly from Alex Jeffries, who is a internet guy, and then his student is Dean Holland, and so he's teaching us, don't pressure yourself, just do well. I think the 15-minute a day thing is a perfect example of being gentle on yourself, being kind to yourself.
Absolutely. I one of the things I talk about in the book is other books that I would write if I felt like I could, but they're mostly too short. And one of them is a business book called Treat Them Like You Like Them.
Yeah,
Treat your team like you like them. Treat your clients like you like them. Treat money like you like money. Treat yourself like you like yourself.
sure.
A lot of us got into entrepreneurship because we couldn't really play by anybody else's rules. And then we sit here putting all this pressure on ourselves that we're not playing by everybody's rules. It's like, no, be kind to yourself, be gentle, and quit waiting for some perfect moment.
There it is. Yeah.
Right? Because it's not
Every
coming.
moment's
No,
a perfect moment. Every moment is a perfect moment.
every moment is a perfect moment. Exactly.
Oh, you're talking, we can talk about perfectionism. People are so perfectionistic that they don't get anything. They don't start anything because, first of all, they don't think they can accomplish what it is they set out to do.
It's such a hollow goal, though, isn't it? I mean, do you love the people in your life because they're perfect people?
No.
Are your favorite books or favorite movies perfect books or movies? Most of my favorite movies, I think, might be described by most people as kind of cheesy. Like, some of them are very good, but I don't know that they're perfect. And I don't know that I'd want them to be. Perfect is not the goal. Go for something else. Go for heartwarming. Go for different. Go for weird. Go for experimental. Go for dangerous, even. Like, just this, the whole reason I have a business, the whole reason I write books is because I am slightly I'll use the word obsessed,
Mhm.
with the understanding that we will die.
Yes.
We do not have an unlimited time in which to do our work. And we do not know how much time that is. Right? I'm always paying extra attention whenever there's something in the news of like, so this person was just at home in bed and a plane fell out of the sky and crashed into their house. I'm like, this kind of thing happens all the time. And I'm like, they're just gone. They're gone. They're laying in bed and now they're not there anymore.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we must do our work while we are here to do our work. You
Yes.
must do the things that are on your heart to do. And I don't care if you don't think they're any good.
Yeah.
That's none of your business. You are a terrible judge of your own work.
Well,
You
that's
may
true
have
because,
that you're a terrible judge of your own work.
yeah,
It's not your job to judge it. It's your job to do it.
I don't know how many times I've heard people say they start something and then they think, oh my God, it shouldn't be that way. And then they get rid of it.
I once got a very good piece of advice from my dear, dear friend, Phil Swan. Phil and I it's been a dear friend and a collaborator. We've written and we wrote a musical together
Nice.
That's super fun. And there's one of the songs in the musical that in my mind is not as good as it should be. Mostly lyrically. The song itself is great. But lyrically, I kind of want it to be a little different in my head. But it's the big 11 o'clock number and everybody loves it. It got a huge response every time we performed it. People went crazy for the song. And I was like, Phil, next time we mount this show, I really feel like we need to like take another pass at this song. And he goes, Sam, never rewrite a hit song.
Ah, good for
Never
him.
rewrite. Yeah, don't rewrite a hit song. And part of what he's saying is no one else can hear the perfect version that's in your head. Everyone else is just responding to what they're seeing and they love it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this idea of like, oh, this just isn't up to my standards, that again, none of your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Let it go.
Let it go.
Perfectionism is an inability to let it go.
Yeah, it's a mean trick, perfectionism. And it's too bad that it doesn't work. I mean, if you could really obsess over every detail and then actually have it come out perfect, you might be able to persuade me that that was a worthwhile use of your time.
Yes,
But
yes.
that's not how it goes.
Did you spend time in Hollywood as an actress?
I did. I was one of those kids who I was always an actor. I put on plays in the living room in the backyard, and I went to theater camp, and I did a lot of theater in Chicago. I was with the Second City Theater in Chicago for a long time, and that was amazing. And then I went out to LA and I did a lot of theater, a lot of radio drama, and a fair bit of TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask, talking about perfectionism, what we expect as a culture in our celebrities and how they have to, and then the paparazzi always going after these people and putting words in their mouth. And so I think that that's really, I wish people would stop doing that. I think, it's just not kind to these people. They're just like us. And it's sad.
I am fortunate enough to be friends with a lot of famous people, some of them massively famous, some of them less so. And any thought you ever had that they are more special, more better, more confident, more whatever than anybody else, I'm telling you, it's not true.
Right.
They also wake up in the morning insecure. They also compare themselves to other people. They also think that their ideas aren't very good. They also, the one thing that performers have, and that certainly helped me during this long haul thing, is we know we have to show up.
Yes, that's so true. That is
If
so
the
true.
show is Friday night at 7, then the show is Friday night at 7, and that's the end of the story. Like, it doesn't matter that you've just had the worst day of your life. The
No.
show's at 7, and you will get on that stage and you will do that show to the very best of your ability.
Yes, that is an amazing thing about the theater.
Yeah. It's also the positive result of a lifetime of childhood trauma is the ability to compartmentalize. But, you know, these things have their uses. But no, I've worked with, I'm friends with and worked with, Academy Award winners and Emmy Award winners and great writers, people who are just, they're so good. You just kind of want to quit the business because you're like, there's no way I could ever be as great as they are. But they're just people. And they suffer and I really want to, but the thing I really want to break apart is whatever idea other people have in their head of like, well, it must be easier. It must be easier for Kate to have a podcast because she's da da da. It must be easier for Sam to write books because XYZ. I'm here to tell you, no. Kate and I will both tell you, it's not easier. It's not easier for us at all. We just have this drive to do it. We have a drive to share the story. We have a drive to put ourselves in front of people because of what we want to share with them.
Well, this comparing ourselves to other people is almost like a disease. Because, I mean, especially when you're talking about Hollywood, there's people who do win the Academy Awards and who do win all of the awards, or even if they don't win the awards, are geniuses. And we can easily think that that is not, I can't do that, therefore I won't.
And we forget that everyone has a zone of genius.
Yes.
Everyone has a zone of genius. And I always put it as a zone of creative genius. And I will also pause, tip of the hat to Gay and Katie Hendricks for their work on zone of genius, zone of creative genius. But everyone has that thing that they've just always been naturally good at. They're just always naturally interested in. They probably spend maybe more money on it than their spouse or partner thinks they should. They end up having conversations with someone going, wait a minute, you're spending how much to drive how far to go to a conference on what?
I know. Why do people even want to know how much it costs?
Right? Or they're like, wait, so you're going to the antique quilt exhibition because why? You're like, oh no, I love it. I can't wait. I gotta go. I can't, like, oh wait, oh yeah, I gotta go in the store because they've got XYZ. And you're like, why do you, okay. Right. So it's that thing that whatever it is for you, that your family and friends are like, that's a little weird. But it's always satisfying to you.
Yes.
The other way I think of it is always like if somebody woke you up at 3 a.m. and said, hey, we're gonna go to XYZ. Do you want to come? And you would be like, oh yeah. Oh, where's my shoes? Yeah. Let me wake up. Okay. Like whatever that is, that's your zone of creative genius. And the distinction between creative and artistic, right? Not everyone is artistic. Everyone is creative.
Yes.
And the more you can lean in to that zone of creative genius, the happier you will be, the more joy you will bring, the more you can bring your life in alignment with that. And sometimes we can't. Sometimes we've got a job that has nothing to do with the thing we care about. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at least give yourself 15 minutes a day
to
explore that, to get in there and do those things that light you up.
Well, life is creative. Life is an art form and life is creative. Every moment is an art form. It may not be artistic, as you say, but it is something that we can learn to love minute by minute. And that creates more genius. Yeah.
And I will also say, because this is coming up a lot these days, I personally am not of the opinion that the artists and creators that I admire most, I don't insist that they be perfect people. I don't have to agree with their politics. I don't have to approve of their personal behavior. I would prefer that they not be criminals. Like that's my preference.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But there's a lot of great stuff that gets created by very flawed people.
Yeah.
And I think it's not an excuse. I mean, but I just think it's unrealistic to expect that the creators you love also conform to your idea of what a perfect person is.
Yeah. You have to let people go. The best relationships are really unconditional and tolerant. of anything that I mean, in other words, you can have discussions and you can have things that you don't agree with. But I think the only reason my marriage lasted is because I allowed him to be himself, and vice versa.
So I've been married for 36 years, but to 3 different people.
That's cool.
First, second, I had 3 marriages. I love all my husbands. And the thing I learned, especially for my 3rd marriage, was like, I am no longer in the husband improvement business.
Yeah, right.
You are perfect, whole, and complete, just as you are. You get to make your own choices. I'm here to help if you need me, but otherwise, go your own way.
Yeah, I can't fix you or anybody else.
No, I can barely fix myself.
Excuse me. Yes, that's the secret to a good marriage, is to let them be who they want to be. As long as everybody doesn't, as long as nobody hurts anybody, especially you or me.
Well, that's it. And there's a story in the book of there's one time when I was working out. I was at a really challenging workout. This is the other thing about long haul, is now I can't work out, which is like something I used to do a lot of. So we're doing this reverse bear crawl thing. It was awful. It's so hard. And I'm streaming, I'm sweating, I'm red, I'm crying, I'm hating this. The 27-year-olds are lapping me like crazy. I'm like, this is awful. And finally the trainer comes over to me and she goes, okay, Sam, she goes, does it hurt or is it just hard? I said, yeah, it's just hard. And she goes, good, and walks away. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for this. There's my sermon for next week. But she was exactly right. Like, if it hurts, it being whatever, the job, the relationship, the friendship, if it hurts, stop, because that's a sign that something is wrong.
If it
Right?
hurts, your body is telling you something. And
That's right.
so often we do not listen to our bodies.
And if it hurts emotionally,
Yes.
you're being told something. How do you know if you're in a loving relationship? Because you feel loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't feel loved, but rather hurt, that's a sign that something is wrong, right? Your pain is trying to get your attention. On the other hand, if it is just hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where the greatness lies. Like, everything good is on the other side of hard. And
Yeah.
I really think that, especially the older we get and the whatever level of prestige or power you have in your life, if you're a leader in your community or even just in your family, I think it is a really helpful step to spend at least some time every week as a beginner.
Wow.
Put yourself in some position where you are not the authority, where you do not know best, where you feel behind, helpless, slow, sweating, red-faced, embarrassed, because first of all, it's just a great stretch for your mind to be in beginner's mind, to realize how much you don't know about something or another thing, and to watch your ego come up and watch your sense of competition come up and watch your desire to be perfect, your desire to be better than everybody else come up, and like, wow, it's just a magnificent teaching moment for yourself. And then to watch yourself get a little better and get a little better and get a little better. You may never be great, but you can get a little better. And remember that that's how your clients feel.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how the young people feel. That's how the new people feel. Like, generate a little more compassion
Absolutely.
through your own experience.
I had a very interesting experience towards the end, an end of my nursing career, whereby making a distinction between the body and whether it hurts or whether it's just hard. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would go to work at night, 12-hour shifts, and I'd get in there and immediately become nauseous and have the worst migraine of my life. I tried everything in my power to try to, I went part-time. Everything just wasn't happening until I left the job and everything just lifted. And I had another friend who had that same thing. She walked into the workplace and her body was in so much pain. And then when she left, it was fine. And then she retired and everything was great. So there it is. You know, your body wants you to listen to her.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
And those and it's a delicate balance, right? I mean, because on the one hand, there are some times where you really do just have to muscle through, you know, where you really do just have to suck it up and keep going and find ways to cope and find ways to deal. But there's a lot of pain that's optional.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might be that, you know, you can change your attitude about things, but sometimes even if you do, the body is still saying, get the hell out of there.
Yeah. 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 That's true.
So I think that, oh, tell us about the lab that you have. That you have a lab where
I have Get It Done Lab is a 90-day productivity sprint that we've been running for a couple of years now. I'm not sure I'm going to keep it going, actually. That's very interesting you bring this up because just in the last day or so, I've thought, I wonder if it's time to retire the lab. But it's based on the same premise, all the same teachings from the Get It Done book.
yeah.
And there's the Get It Done workshop. And this is the Get It Done Lab. So like I said, it's 90 days where I encourage people to spend 15 minutes a day, every day for 90 days to move forward on whatever it is that matters to them. And so there's live teaching with me, there's a bunch of bonuses, there's a bunch of support materials. But I always like the idea of a lab because it's an experiment.
Yeah.
We're not saying I will absolutely do this XYZ, or, you know, sometimes I shy away from goal setting because it feels like so much pressure, you know,
It is. It is.
or it feels like outside of my knowledge. I'm like, I don't really know what's best here. I don't really know if this is the right path for me or not. And I don't want to get in the way of, you know, the divine presence that might be pulling me somewhere else just because I've got a big fat idea about what it should be, right? But if I'm in the lab,
Yeah.
well, I can experiment, right? I can play around with it. It also, you know, sometimes I hear people say like, oh, I'm not an expert, or I don't want to do XYZ because I'm not an expert in that. I don't think I can write a book. I'm no expert. But this root word of expert is the same root word as experiment
Oh,
and
good.
experience, right? And experience. So to be able to say, I may or may not be an expert, but I definitely have some experience with this. I definitely have done some experiments with this. I've been living out this, you know, whatever it is. And I know what I know.
So you were saying how writing a book, even if you don't perceive yourself as an expert, can open so many doors.
Writing a book, I, you know, you always see the statistic about how, you know, 88% of people say they want to write a book. And I really feel like those 88% of people should. It's a marvelous experiment
Yes.
to just get your ideas on paper and be moving forward with them. And it's an incredible spiritual discipline because, of course, the worst part, the hardest part, the part everyone will say is the hardest part, is sitting down and doing it.
Right. Especially in this crazy, distracting, everything's so distracting, world that we live in. But years ago, I did write a book. I wrote several books, but this one was it's a memoir about my nursing. So
Ah,
I'm thinking now, wouldn't that be fun to add some more to it and then publish it again and see what happens. It's a good book, but it could use a little bit more. I mean, I may get more up to date, I guess. And
or just make a new one, you know?
or make a new one, because writing a book is just as you say, it has a real spiritual component to it because it is creative, and we're not talking about writing it with AI, you know, we're talking about writing it in that muse-like state where you really touch upon something deep within yourself. And when you can put it out on the paper, it is a truly spiritual exercise and experiment. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and yes, it's has it all been said before? Yes, it has all been said before,
Oh, yeah,
not by you.
yeah, yeah, that's right. So I think that a lot of people say they want to write a book, and you're right, they really should. That's what they
It's
should.
nothing. My friend Robin says, don't write a book, write a booklet.
Yeah.
Like, right? Write a short book, write a baby book. Not all books have to be books. I also run a program that nobody knows about because it's called the Super Secret Book Writing Club. And it's so secret, there's not even anything about it on my website. Like it's really, I don't advertise it. I rarely talk about it, even in situations like this. Um, but the experience that people have moving through their ideas and letting the book tell you what it needs to be, and being in relationship with this thing, these ideas that have been tapping you on the shoulder for a long time. Like those ideas have not left you alone. There's plenty of ideas that have come and gone, but there's a couple that have really stuck around and they've chosen you.
Yes.
No, they're part of your charge, your reason. And even if it's just something that you share with your family or with friends. I had one client who's was a NICU nurse, and her stories of working in the NICU, I mean, first of all, they just blow your heart into a million pieces. But they're everything stories, right? I mean, the minute you hear it, you go, I know what that is. I know what that kind of pain it like, and we feel less alone. That's all we want in the world, is to feel less alone.
Yes. Yes.
And books help us do that.
Yeah, there's something about when the babies die. I was a part of that we had a bereavement group, and it took a certain kind of nurse to be able to handle this. But, we would take care of the babies, and then the babies would die, and then we'd have to take care and make sure when that heartbeat actually stopped and the whole deal. And it was like very, very, very special.
Yeah,
Not everybody can do it. And but it could be a book.
absolutely.
Yes. So you are giving up the lab idea. What
Oh, I don't know. It's a TBD. Check back with me. I'm not sure about that.
right. And so what do you perceive to take its place, or hasn't that birthed inside of you yet?
That's that thing I was saying about how it's been a little challenging for me to sort of make a big plan for myself.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I am right in this exact moment. I was just working with this morning. I'm like, well, what do I want to do? How do I want to structure the business moving forward? And always, I mean, again, I've been doing this full time since 2009. I started teaching the Get It Done class in 2001, I think, 2000, something like that. Uh, and I've always been the kind of person who sort of gets an idea and just does it. Like, I'm like, it sort of comes bing, and I'm like, oh, great, that's what we're doing. Moving forward. Fabulous. Full steam ahead. And now I'm not so much like that. And I don't know if it's long haul or menopause or life or just lifing, or I don't know. I don't know what to attribute it to.
Well, you're in
But
a
I'm gonna have to figure it out.
transitional stage, obviously. So
Yeah.
that would be something that you might as well just enjoy that moment, because it will change. It does everything.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think I am sort of at that one of those points of time where, some things have failed, some things have ended, some things have burnt down, some things have gotten weird, whatever. Uh, and when you have this feeling of disintegration, I think it's a great opportunity to just light a match and see what else burns.
And see what rises out of the ashes.
And see what rises out of the ashes.
Yes, don't push it.
Don't push it, wait, but don't hang on. I've been fighting the impulse to feel sorry for myself.
Mhm.
Wait, why isn't it like it was? I want it to be like it was. Well, kitten,
Yeah.
welcome to life. Again, time, in as much as there is time, to us anyway, appears to move in one direction. So it's not going to be the way it was. Even if we
Well,
recreate those circumstances, it's still not going to be the way it was. And and why not open up to some greater possibilities? Maybe something even better is happening,
oh,
and
sure.
I just don't know what it is yet.
Matt Dix is been published by New World Library recently.
Yeah.
And what I found most exciting for me about what he teaches is the homework for life.
Mm,
So what that means is that the way to come up, and you're a storyteller, so you would enjoy. In fact, we're all storytellers,
that's
but
right.
actually don't believe that we are, obviously. But what happens is he has this homework for life, where every night before you, or even throughout the day, he does it, but you write down little tidbits of things that happen. It doesn't, you don't have to go into great detail because you just want to remind yourself when you see it again. He does this every day for years. And so he's able to pick out stories, and he's able to pick out the, you might call it patterns in his life through
Hmm. Hmm.
stories. And by doing that, I think it gets you more in touch with your own life, not somebody else's. It's more self-reflection. And I have started to do this. I actually enjoy doing this. I'm a proponent of the Julia Cameron morning pages idea too. But this one is simpler because, it doesn't take much time, and then after a while you can see, and you do forget.
Of course, of course. And I imagine I like Matthew's books. In fact, I have, yes, there it is. Some Days Today. I've got it right there. Um, uh, the other thing I like to encourage people to do is to write down, in terms of like little notes to yourself, write down all the compliments you get.
Nice.
And don't write down who said it or what you think they meant by it or what you think they wanted from you when they said it. Like, none of that matters. Just what are the words and phrases that you hear all the time? Oh gosh, that's smart. Smart. Oh, you look cute. Looks cute. Well, that was, I had a friend, mentor, teacher who, whenever I said something particularly good, he would go, Samantha, you are perspicacious.
Oh, that's it.
Perspicacious. It's a great word. So underused, so underused. And the same thing, you start to realize you start to recognize these patterns. And it's for those of us with, depression, anxiety, chronically low self-esteem, to be able to go like, oh, well, this is what people perceive about me. If this is true, in general, people find me friendly. In general, people find me smart or a pushover or kind or whatever. And you can start to have a little more confidence in yourself. I think a lot of our anxiety comes from like, well, I don't know, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? Well, you keep that list for long enough and you know what they're thinking.
Yeah. Yes.
This whole like, oh, if I walk into a room, I know what I can make a pretty good guess about what people are assuming about me or what they believe about me. And then I get to either say, yes, that thing about me that you're seeing is absolutely true. I'm absolutely like that. Or I can help correct them and say, I know I seem like somebody who's super confident, but in fact, I'm very shy. I'm very introverted. And I question myself and my decisions all the time. Like, confidence is not a feeling I have about myself. It's a feeling other people seem to have about me, but it's not my experience of myself.
Well, you do, or you're a very strong person, I feel.
I am a strong person, and I'm also a very tall person.
Okay, yeah, that helps.
And I'm the eldest daughter of an eldest daughter.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two sisters.
Oh,
I
no.
have a sister who's 3.5 years younger, and I have a sister who's 18 years younger.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, are you almost 6 foot? I think I read six
I
foot tall.
am. I'm almost 6 feet tall. Yeah.
Well, that gives you a certain presence as you go into any room.
It does. It does. And in fact, it makes it amazing that I ever worked in Hollywood at all, because you may or may not know that most performers in Hollywood, particularly television performers, tend to be very small with giant heads.
Is that part of the ego, do you think?
No, it's just they look great on camera.
Yeah.
they look terrific on camera, and everybody goes, oh, we should hire that person because they're tiny, but they have a giant head.
No, I didn't know that.
It's true. It's true. Well, fun fact. But there's not a lot of, I mean, when you think about it, there's not a lot of tall girls in Hollywood to begin with. And there's particularly not a lot of tall girls who aren't supermodels or super thin. And I was none of those things. So yeah, it's sort of amazing that I worked at all.
That super thin stuff is misleading to the general public.
And
Yeah,
some people come by it naturally. That's just their body. They're born that way. You know, they would have been that way no matter what. And some people really do a lot of damage to themselves pursuing the pursuit of thinness.
yeah, and it isn't healthy to be that thin, but it then also any kind of weight we carry in our bellies can be unhealthy as well. So, there's a balance to, you have to figure out what is best for you. And this comparison thing is never going to work. And but it's easy to do. It's very easy to do. So
it's a big, big trap that's so common. I mean, it's you kind of got to forgive yourself a little bit.
even men do it, not just women.
Everybody does it. Everybody does it. And I try to move from comparison to appreciation.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? How wonderful that that person is like that. How wonderful that they have the gift of this or that or the other thing. And to recognize my own envy or jealousy as a signal of my desire.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't want what they have. I want my version of that.
Yes.
Right. So that, again, it's a little green light. It's something tapping on your shoulder saying, hey, you're so upset because they got XYZ. You go get your XYZ.
Yeah.
Quit thinking that's not for you.
That's right. Mutual regard and mutual appreciation and gratitude for whatever it is they're bringing to the table.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Well, Sam, I really appreciate your talking to me for this last hour. And
It's been
it was
delightful.
wonderful. Thank you. And do you have another project? I know you might not, but this is a great book. And
Thank you. Yeah, it's just come out and it's available anywhere you like to buy books, and it's available on Audible. I did the audiobooks myself. I did them for all 3 of my books because what, I'm going to let all that acting training go to waste? No.
No, in fact, I saw that one TikTok where you are, I think it was TikTok where you are in a booth and
Oh, when I was doing the recording of this, yeah.
that was interesting because for anyone who wants to understand how to do a recording of their own book, that is a perfect video for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was really, I very rarely do that kind of behind the scenes things. Mostly I do more presentational like this.
Yeah.
Me just talking directly to camera, but I had that exact thought. I thought, I bet most people haven't been inside an audio booth or a recording, and how simple it is. I mean, it's not a really complicated setup. It's not, it's not like recording music where they've got the thing with all the dials and, it's
Right.
pretty straightforward. And there's a few tricks. There's a few things to know, to do a really successful audiobook, but I love it. I love doing voice work and audio work. It's so fun and so challenging. It's a lot harder than it looks.
So you do a lot of voice training?
I have done, certainly. And yeah, several 100,000 hours of training definitely come in handy.
Yeah.
The main thing,
if you're going to do an audiobook, probably a little voice training before you do it is important.
It can be. I think the thing what would I say to somebody? What's the big piece of advice I would give? Is to trust the story, to show up fully to the words and let the words drive what you're doing. You don't have to make things sound sad or make them sound funny or make them, it's the thing I love about voice work is there's nowhere to run and there's nowhere to hide. If I'm on camera or on stage, I got a big bag of tricks of things that I can do that will sort of make you believe that I'm feeling a certain way or doing a certain thing, or like there's a lot of magical little things I can do that will make it seem like it's the way it's supposed to be. And there's tricks in voiceover too, but your voice never lies. I mean, when You know the difference when somebody's going, I love you, and I love you,
Mhm.
right? We know that, we feel that sincerity. So I think that's sort of the biggest thing is trusting the work and really tapping into your own authenticity and sincerity.
Yes. Yes.
Not bad advice for anything, really.
Exactly. It's just wonderful. Thank you very much. I
My
will put
pleasure.
the link to your book in the comment, or, in the description of our talk today. I'll send you this interview and you can do whatever you want to do with it. And I'm going to cut it up and send it around the internet for,
Fantastic. And yes, and if you send over any of the socials or the whatever, we can put it on our channels too. So
well, I can tag you and it'll go right on your channel, I think.
great. Perfect.
All
Love
right.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kate. Take
It
good
was
care.
fun. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.